Let's take a look at door window assembly styles in AutoCAD Architecture. On my screen right now I have an example of one of the numerous door window assembly styles available in Archidyme's doors and also our Windows content products for AutoCAD Architecture. The example here is a very common entry door for like a grocery outlet or a hospital or an office complex. It has two sliding doors that go to the opposing directions, side lights, and a clear story bay above. Rather than deconstructing this one as an example, I will start with a drawing that's almost completely blank and walk you through all the steps of doing something like this from scratch. So to do that, I will go to my almost blank drawing. I say it's almost blank because I clearly have drawn something here. But essentially it's blank. There's no styles placed in here. We'll do it completely from scratch. But before I begin, I want to take a look at this image I created with 2D lines in AutoCAD to show you what I am intending to demonstrate and how the logic of it will go. You can approach creating door window assembly styles and curtain walls in a variety of ways when it comes to establishing the grids. Sometimes you can make the grids more complicated or the process of getting the results more complicated than other times. I've done things where I've made it exceedingly complicated, only realized I took a bad approach and backed out and started over. And it has to do with how you envision the grids occurring. So for example, on the screen here, the intent for this storefront scenario would be a door anchored to one side, let's just say the start side, then with a series of side lights that will repeat to the right. There will be a head for the door at approximately 7 feet. And then above it, just a series of maybe grids, maybe square 4x4 grids. So they have to repeat vertically, okay? But what is necessary to understand is that you will have to recognize that each time you define a grid line, you are essentially establishing relationships within the tool of, say, left, right, middle, top, bottom, right? And so those are the things you'll need to understand is how are you relating to these divisions that you're creating. And it'll make more sense as I start creating the process. But to begin with here, the yellow will represent the frame. Okay, my intent is to get rid of the frame down at the bottom. I don't want it at the door. And then I would like the green one, so this will be the first division that I would like to create. That would establish the door from the end. Then the second thing I will do is establish an arrangement of these internal vertical mullions for the side light. I'll make this 4 feet. Then after that, I will address the head of the door, which should run a mullion all the way across. And I've broken it here on purpose because the idea is to think from this green line. I have now created a left side and a right side, which means that I'm not going to be able to run a mullion through with one shot. I will have to address left and right separately because I broke it with this line. And then again, I have the head here. So there will be an above the head and a below the head. So it gets complicated. I think the issue is not understanding how the grid tool thinks or has been coded, essentially, is what causes confusion. If you do small steps and process, look at the screen, see what it created, and go back and forth, eventually you'll start to get the logic of it. So let's begin with drawing a wall. So I'm going to do a wall down here. pick right here, and I'll make that wall 25 feet long. To create a door window assembly from scratch, go to the Home tab up here, come down to Door, just select Door Window Assembly. Let's make sure that it doesn't have anything weird. Make sure that it's set to sill at 0. And I will make that thing 20 feet by 16 feet. Those are the previous numbers I was planning to work with, so that sounds good. And I'll pop it in here. When I select this, notice that it reads to the outside of frame. And notice on the Properties palette, there is no way to change that to inside of frame like you can with doors and windows. If you needed to make it to inside of frame, you would have to work with offsets inside the style to compensate for the width of the frame itself. So, I have it highlighted. I will now do a copy, a right click, and I will do a copy window assembly style and assign. I have my preview of it here. I'll go to general. Preview is down here in this lower left if you don't have it up. And I will go ahead and name this thing Storefront. I will say Single Hinged dash End. That's a pretty good start for the name. Let's proceed to the design rules. Let's jump down to, let's go to the very bottom, mullions. Just for simplicity's sake, I will make the mullions 2 by 4. And I will call them main mullions. I'll make it plural because it's more than one. And for frames, I'll rename this to main frame 2 by 4. For infills, their default is called default infill. For now, we're just going to start with something called glass. And let's go ahead and make that, just for simplicity, make it 1 inch. For divisions, their default division just says default. Let's, what I said was I was going to do that green line which separates the door vertically from the rest of the DWA. So I will call this door vertical mullion. I'll select the vertical orientation here, that little button right here. And for division type, I'll click on the drop down and go to manual. And then over here on this little icon for add a grid line, I'll add a grid line. I'll go where it says from, drop down and do a start. You could do end. It's going to be at least it's true to the edge, right? It's to the outside edge. Definitely not middle unless you were doing something different. But I'll use start. And just to begin with, most commercial doors, 3 foot by 7 foot. Let's start with what we know. We think we want 3 feet. We'll come back. We'll need to adjust this. And I'll explain why. But that's a pretty good place. And you can see in the preview now, it's creating essentially, a door and then one big piece of glass here. Let's go up to the primary grid and take a look and see how things are looking here. So I've got all that information set. That looks good. What I need now is, like I said earlier on the screen, I had that graphic that I was going to address the panels that were essentially the side light of the door. So we'll go to divisions, and I did a right click, establish a new one. So I will call this side light vertical mullions. Make sure I have this thing set to vertical. And for this one, we'll do them even increment, so they just repeat. And we'll set that to 4 feet. Again, I'm just picking simple numbers. And that's good. No auto adjust. That's for more sophisticated stuff. Just leave, don't tackle things that are too difficult too quickly. Keep it all simple and then progress. Okay, and then the next thing I said is I would do the head of the door. So I'll do another division, and I'm going to call that door head. And I might as well put mullion to be consistent. The door head will be established with a horizontal division or orientation. It'll be a manual. And again, like before, I'll pick over here, but this time since it's horizontal, I'll be picking from grid bottom, and I will be setting the door height to 7. But actually, because the mullion is actually a 2x4, and this grid system reads from the center to center of mullions, you really want more than 7 feet. You know what, but I'm gonna leave it and address it just like I said I would address the width of the 3 feet. And we'll just go ahead and leave that at 7 feet. Okay. So nothing changes because I haven't actually utilized these divisions. So we'll go over now to the primary grid. And what we can see here is that we have cell assignments. That's where you work with these divisions. They are created under the cell assignments, and they are done by the means of going into the cell assignment element here and changing it to, or assigning it to, a nested grid. Okay? So my first nested grid, which is essentially a subdivision, will be the door. So I'll type in door. All right. Let's see. So now back on the primary grid, you'll see it says door nested grid. And then we'll do another one. We'll click right under cell assignments, right click here and say new. And okay, it's got the vertical. Sometimes it'll change the name when you select nested grid, and I'm just making sure it has nested grid in there. And then it's easier to go in here, double click to change the name, and I will just say side lights. Okay, so I've got the left and the right taken care of now. So go to primary grid again and take a look at the cell assignments. I have the door and the side lights. Think in terms of left and right. And notice where it says used in. So basically the side lights are not going to be at the start. Right? The side lights are going to be the end. There is no middle. There's just start and end because it was divided vertically from the main division here, vertically by the first one, which was the 3 feet over. So I just have start and end. And then let's take a look here under door. The door is, that's fine, we'll leave that alone for now. And the side lights should be set to something different. We should set the side lights to the side light vertical mullions. You see it popped over here in the preview. Okay. And let's hit OK. And the reason I want to jump out now is the preview picture is not large enough to really show me what's going on. So I want to jump out, and then I want to go ahead and take a look at the results in a 3D. You can see the image shows a lot more. And what I want to do is I want to do a distance check. So theoretically, or supposedly, from my input, the distance from this mullion to this mullion should be 4 feet, and it's reporting that. Just to be sure, I should check this distance as well. Yep, 4 feet, that's good. Now let's check the door. The space inside between the frame and the first mullion should be 3 feet. And it's coming in at 2.9. Now the reason that is that the way this object was designed and how it creates or measures the divisions is that from the mullions it goes from center to center, unless you change offsets. And from the frame it goes from the outside. So what I want is the frame, which is 2, plus half of the mullion, that equals 1. The mullion is 2, but I only want half. So combine the 2 plus the 1 is 3 inches. So let's go back and go to the door division here. So I have the door vertical, and I said I would take a look at that. So that's now going to be 3'3". Okay. All right, and if I measure in here now that says 3 feet. Okay, let's continue on. Now what I would like to do is establish my head, right? Because this is just running, no door is that tall. So what I need to do is I need to go to the door, and I need to go ahead and set that door head height right there. All right. And then I need to go to the side lights. Now the side lights are already in here doing the vertical work, so I don't want to change that. If I went and said, okay, go to the door head height, it would just do that. That's not what I want. I want the vertical, so side light verticals, but now I want to break this in, in two, essentially, top and bottom. So the way to do that is I go in here, like I did before, set this to a nested grid, and go ahead onto the nested grid under the side light, and now set that to where side light vertical head. Where's the head? Here we go, like that, right? So it's using the same division now for essentially the left and the right on the screen, and so you get the same continuous headline here. Okay, so let's OK out. And let's measure. So before I even measure, I got kind of a problem here. This isn't going to work for a door. Let's take a look here. There we go. So I've got this bit of frame down here. So I can't even do the distance check because I got to get rid of the frame. A door doesn't have that frame piece. So okay, we'll go back. All right, and then we'll take a look here on the primary grid. Pull this into place. I always go to the primary grid when I get started. I don't just jump in to try to get, I want my orientation. My primary grid establishes the top of the stack here of these nested grids. So on the primary grid, I look and I see I have frame assignments. And the frame, as you would expect, is left, right, top, and bottom, except I don't want the bottom, so I'll uncheck the bottom, and then that pops away. But I do want the frame where? I want the frame under the side light portion. Okay, let's go to side lights and go ahead and see if we can go ahead and pop it on just for the bottom like that. See, so I brought it in as a part of the side lights. Now you can actually have frames inside of frames, but in this case, that's not. We're not trying to achieve something like that, but we did want that frame there. Okay, so that looks better, and we'll hit OK. Now we'll check the distance here. The door, this should be 7 feet from here up to there, right? So it's showing me at 6'11", and that again is because this mullion is 2 inches thick. So we'll go back and we'll find the divisions. We'll go to the door head, and we'll now change that to 7'1". And then that takes care of that. So that also made that whole mullion line, because it's using that same division. That is up now from the bottom to the center, 7'1". Okay. So the next thing that we want to look at from my sketch is we want to address what goes on in the upper portion here. If this was a dynamic design where you're going to have variable heights, you might have this divided into 2s and 3s and 4s or just 1. So you need to design in how you want the grid system to work above. Now, if it was this, if you knew this was always going to be something like a 10-foot use, you could just use it as is. It's done now, because if you assign that to 10, it would have the glass below and then a panel above. But just to illustrate more in terms of the grid control and how to work with these assignments and nested grids, we'll make this a little more complicated. So I will now, I should name this. See, side lights, just put names in here so you know what's going on. So this, if I go to side lights, this is side lights head. So I might just say head for now. Okay, I'm going to go down to divisions, and I'm going to do a new division, and this one will be, let's do upper horizontal mullions, and these will be horizontal, and the dimension, let's make them 4 feet. Okay, so they're horizontal. They'll repeat at 4-foot increments. And then we'll go back to the side lights, and we'll take a look at here. So the first thing that the side lights were set to do is vertical. So that's not going to help me. If I go to head, that's now horizontal. So that allows me to have an above and below. That's what I want, above and below. So this is the place to come in. And I will do under the cell assignments, I will do new. And I will call this, we can call it top. I will set this, oh, it's going to throw the name out. Watch this, nested grid, boom. Okay, so now we can name it. I'll just name it over here. Let's go upper lights, something like that. Okay, and then let's jump back. So here I am now on the head. So it's showing me off of this. I have the upper lights, nested grid. It thinks I want to do top and bottom. That's why it's making all this weirdness go on. I actually want this only for the top. So I'll uncheck everything and top. Now if you do this and you get confused, you see left and right, something's not right in what your approach. That's why I laid out the grid originally, to have you think about the orientations of your layout of your grid. Horizontals define tops, bottom, and middle. Verticals define left, middle, and right. So that's what you need to think about when you're doing this. So I only want that for top. And then I'm going to go ahead for that nested grid, and I'm going to change the divisions to upper horizontal mullions. And now it's giving me 4-foot increments up there. So these are 4x4s, right? But notice, and I try to point that out in that initial sketch, you might go back and take a look at it. I have broken this thing up originally vertically at the door. So it sees these two sides as separate. I need to do the same work I just did for the side lights. I need to do over the top of the door. So I go to the door, and the door is set to horizontal. That's the first thing. So I can have an above and below. So I'll go into the cell assignment and say new, and maybe I'll do above door, just so we can track it, right? And then it's going to do this again. I keep doing it. Nested grid. Go over here and rename it above door. Okay. And then I'm on the above door now, so this one needs to be set to upper horizontal mullions. Okay, and let's see, it did it down below. I don't want that, so I know that the problem is at the door. And notice above door was set to top and bottom. No, we don't want that. We only want top. Okay, like that. So now I can see that I pretty much have created what my sketch showed. I am missing one final component here, but let's check this out and see if that's looking right. So theoretically, if I stretch this out more, it'll repeat. If I make this wall longer, we're going to test the recipe here. So if I pull this out more, okay, that's good. If I bring this up higher, it does that. If I bring it down lower, it does that. It leaves this stuff at the bottom always fixed in place. It has a fixed vertical and a fixed horizontal. By fixed, in the settings, it's not called fixed. It's called manual. But it really in terms of a dimensional value, it's fixed. So the last part is that we need to put a door into the door, because this is just a piece of glass, it's called an infill. So what you can do is you can just do door style. Just type in door style. and create a new door. Now here at Argodyne, we name all of our doors and windows that go into curtain walls and door window assemblies. We use a prefix of DWA so you can track that they're not normal doors to be used in walls. They are for the insertion into door window assemblies or curtain walls. And then we might say single glass. Maybe I should say single hinged glass, something like that. Double click, go to your dimensions, get rid of the frame. The frame is established by the mullions in the DWA. For stop, that's up to you. If it was a double hinged or something, you wouldn't have a stop, but you can have a stop in there. And the glass thickness, we could make that just, make both of these one. So if you were to do a more traditional aluminum type door with a glass insert, then you would obviously have the door a little bit thicker and the glass maybe something like 3/8 or so. But just for this situation, I'm planning on an all glass door. It doesn't really matter. There isn't going to be glass in it. It'll just be the panel. And let's jump forward. Let's see, that's all good. Just so you can see it more clearly, let's jump to the materials part. There is no frame. The stop, I'm going to make a black material. I preloaded these into the drawing just to save time. These are some Argodyne material definition styles. So the panel, I will make glass. And if there were muntins in there, I would make those black. I don't need to worry about the frame. We don't have one, and there's no glass. There's just the panel. The panel will act as glass. And that's pretty much it for that. We'll go ahead and add it. And just hit an extra enter so it just pops into space. Oops. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's good. All right, so that's what it'll look like. It just has the stop and the glass. So now we'll go to the DWA. Right click, edit this thing, flip that up, go down to the infills, and now we're going to have an infill do something different than just be a piece of glass or just a generic panel. So I'll go ahead and call this infill door. Down here under infill type, I'll select style. So it opens up the style box over here, whatever you want to call that, where I can go and choose. It's always the same list here. You have these things, AEC polygons. You have a curtain wall unit, which is kind of like a mini curtain wall that you can put inside. It has grids, all that same kind of stuff. Doors and then windows. So we want the door, and we'll put that door in. Okay. Now I can't just jump out yet. I have to go and tell it where to put it. So if I go to door, see where it says under my door now, glass. I'll go ahead and change that to door, and then you'll see, oh, okay, something happened here. And then we'll go, okay, and we'll zoom down a little bit. So notice that the stop doesn't look right. Probably wouldn't, if this is the outside, the door would probably swing outward for egress, and the stop is still, sticking too far in. So we'll just go back and we'll edit this up, and we'll go to the infill for the door, and we'll probably add I don't know, 1.5 inches. Oops. In this scenario, maybe I want a negative. I mean, you can play with this. They have the for the door. You can change it to front and back, so you can get something lined up just perfectly. For this demonstration, I'm not worried about perfection, and we'll just go ahead. So there. So now you can see. And while I'm at it, let's go ahead and edit this again and do some materials so this thing will look a little bit better. I hate their default glass. It renders like crap. So we have our own that's actually using the most modern version of the render material that they actually came up with, but they didn't update their own glass material. For the frame, we'll just go to black, and we'll go to black here, and OK, and then jump out and go to View, and go to Realistic. Okay, and there you go. So now to make this a little bit better, you would maybe improve the door. You might have at least a handle of some type, some ADA compliant handle on there. Like I said, you could also do a more traditional aluminum type door with a glass insert. But this is pretty much it. If you can follow all those steps and recreate this thing, you're there. You can create curtain walls, you can create curtain wall units. It's just a matter of understanding how to nest one thing inside of another thing. And you'll be able to work with our content as well and modify it as you need. This concludes the overview of door window assembly styles for AutoCAD architecture.